underestimate the power of PlayStation.
So.
So speaking of something that's also failed, The Last Guardian.
The Last Guardian.
So over the weekend, there was a hubbub because people figured out that Sony allegedly abandoned the trademark for The Last Guardian, which has actually happened a couple times in the last, 6 years. But then our buddies at GameSpot, I don't know why we didn't do this, but our buddies at GameSpot reached out to Sony, and Sony was like, no, this is just a clerical error. Don't worry, it's still in development.
The light bulb on our trademark went out, and we had to change it.
It's fine.
This is just the theory of large numbers in action, I think. Just like The Last Guardian has been unpublished for so long that this was bound to happen at some point. It's just, it's monkeys on typewriters at this point.
And, when I saw the news initially that the trademark went up, I wasn't surprised. I actually thought that it was sort of on purpose because it was the last in December. Fumito Ueda, the creative director of ICO and Shadow, and now he's not at Sony anymore, but he's still working on this game.
He's like a contractor or something?
He's like a contractor, but he said the development's still going strong, but that it's under, quote, completely new conditions, which in my mind meant, obviously, it's not a PS3 game anymore because that's...
Match 3 puzzle game for
straight
iOS.
to mobile phone.
It's a match 3 puzzle
mobile.
game. I also think...
Quiz and Dragons.
I think it's going to get re-revealed as a game with a different name and an entirely different game.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, well, Last Guardian, it doesn't... I don't care what it's called because I don't think it's going to be called that anymore.
The Final Protector.
The Final Protector.
I wonder if this is something that people are still really passionate about, or if there's that just sort of morbid curiosity to be like, what is this thing and why is it taking so long?
It stars Duke Nukem now.
Yeah, it's reached that Duke Nukem Forever line where you have to pass through that line and you're all of a sudden at this new sea level of being like, I don't know if this is good anymore, and I don't know if I care. I just want to see this giant dog-driven train wreck crawl out of the shadows, and I can tell what this is. But it's weird to me that you tell me, you talk about the creative director of two of the most amazing PlayStation games of all time, and he's been sort of stuck behind this project for so long, and it makes me wonder if it wasn't for this game, maybe we would have gotten 3 other games in the meantime. I don't know how that works, obviously.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. We've brought it up on the show a few times since Shadow of the Colossus released. Naughty Dog has released Jack X, Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, The Last of Us, Left Behind DLC, and most likely Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
It's
in
insane.
the span that Team ICO has not released a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Wow.
It's
really
sad. It's worrisome.
Really sad.
I'm sad.
I don't know.
It makes me think that if 10 years ago somebody was like, nah, man, I'll make a bet with you. I'm only going to play Team ICO games and you can play the Naughty Dog games. It's like, all right.
I would
have a good life.
I want it to come out so that we can have postmortems about it.
Yeah.
I want to know what happened in that development that went wrong. Because I would pay so much money for a full-on interactive documentary behind the scenes about Duke Nukem Forever.
Absolutely.
And even more for something that's a good game. But it's I think that question of what went wrong, what's slowing it down.
Yeah.
And I think that the Bureau, for instance.
Yeah.
That suffered a lot from being being announced wrong, being announced before it was done. Yeah. Being like, hey, kids, we're making weird, melty, bubbly cookie dough. And everyone's like, that looks gross. We don't want that. And they're like, yeah, but it's not done yet. It's going to be totally different. And then
Don't worry. Yeah. It's not even the same genre or crazy.
Too many cooks spoil the broth. And it was just kind of a revolving door of different people coming in and working on that game. And the thing that they announced versus the thing they released was just this Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I mean, that's endemic in the industry of announcing something too early.
And I wonder if it's the same thing with Team ICO, or if it's...
I've probably given them a shout-out in the show before, but I want to do it again. I'm a big fan of a website called Unseen64.
Oh, yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't know.
Oh, my God.
Really?
Totally.
You of all people would absolutely love them.
Oh, I'm excited.
They are a website that documents and chronicles the sort of alternate versions and canceled versions of games that never actually happened. So there was that version of Resident Evil 4 where Leon's shooting ghosts.
Ghosts.
He's in a haunted house. There's levels from Mario 64 that never came out.
And they just gather all these into one place?
And they gather it all together. Stuff
Why
like
am I
that.
sitting here talking?
That Crash Bandicoot where he kills a cop.
Yeah.
Wasn't that...
Yeah, Cop Killer Bandicoot.
That sounds like Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah. It was Ice Cube was the voice of Crash. It was crazy.
Oh, gosh. Brendan was sitting watching Shadow the other day, on a live stream while he was working. Apparently there's a mission in Shadow the Hedgehog where you, go kill the president. He said this was real.
Shocking that saying
that's what they mean by shadow government.
Yeah.
So I want to know, in a few years, I'm totally with you, Max. I'm a big fan of I think EGM used to do them too. It was sort of like they would talk to developers after a game is out, and I feel like that is the most important time to talk to somebody.
Yeah, that's when you get amazing stories.
You know, we're heading into the next season of Up at Noon. Max and I are taking that show over. But before the old season that I did with Greg, we used to just have developers on every week, and one of my most fascinating things that I learned is that talking to somebody before a game comes out and talking to somebody after a game comes out, you are talking to two completely different people.
Yep.
You're talking to a person who's like, oh, we were able to do real-time weapon blah, 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 and our game supports 64 players. And a month later, they're just like, we tried so bad to make a boss out of a lamp, but he didn't work. But I wanted it so badly, but we couldn't do it. And you're like, why wasn't it there? And it's like, oh, we know, we just didn't have time. And you don't hear that because no one ever tells you the shortcomings of a game before it comes out.
Right.
So I'm fascinated in hearing years later, sort of just like, this was the most ambitious game ever made, and it turned into a pop-up book.
Yeah.
And now it is where it is, and I'm sorry, but it's canceled, or it's out, or the version you played was a 6 out of 10, but this was almost this like GTA with a giant Wolverine or whatever animal that is.
I want to play that so bad.
Right? Like, who
modding
knows?
community, jump to it.
Who knows? So I think that's fascinating. So yeah, check out Unseen 64. They have this sort of amazing timeline of alternate dimensional games we never got to play, canceled games, and things that didn't really ever exist.
You've ruined my day. I can't wait.
There was going to be an Akira game.
Really?
That was going to be like Road Rash.
Oh, God.
And the only things that exist about it are a few screenshots that were trickled out. I think this was pre-E3, so there wasn't that kind of trade show culture.
Yeah.
And there are no existing builds of it anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things that it just, maybe it's somewhere in a dumpster, maybe it just doesn't exist, but there's like 5 screenshots, and they look awesome. It was for Sega and Super Nintendo. And
Man.
Now, I love what like Frank Cifaldi does with Lost Levels. Grabbing all that stuff, chronicling. But these alternate build things, I cannot wait.
That sounds really cool.
Did we ever really get this sort of like post-mort on Duke Nukem Forever? I know we got like notes here and there and then lawsuits and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is behind lawsuits.
One of the coolest things that I have, I've got a friend who works at 2K, and I'm apparently the only person who wants Duke Nukem flavored garbage in his house. So I have like a whole set of Duke Nukem shot glasses, and I've got like the collector's edition of the strategy guide, which is just this big, hideous gold hardcover thing with the Atomic logo on the cover. And the best part of that is the last maybe 50 pages are all concept art, and it changes so much.
Yeah,
like that game was really, really, really offensive. Like more than it ended up being. There was a female character who was an Asian lady whose name was Miso, like the soup, Miso Honey.
Oh.
Like Miso Horny, but yeah.
Thanks for explaining that one.
I'm really glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But then there were also, I mean, there was a lot of also like really cool designs that just got scrapped or whatever. And there's the thing that sucks about it is that when that came out, they were trying so hard to sell the game and like hype it up, and they're like, we're really excited, this game is finally coming to fruition. And I just want to go through that with like, I don't know, George Broussard or somebody and be like, what happened there? What changed? Because this, I mean, the early stuff was like hideous, like late mid 90s Wildstorm comics, like Area 51 Aliens, and just stuff you'd see in a skateboard catalog.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then it changed just so much.
Yeah, I've heard stories about a pitched Duke Nukem. I can't tell the story. I'll ask the guy if I have permission to tell the story. But a pitched Duke Nukem game recently sounded incredible and would absolutely like revitalize that series and be insanely topical.
Is it a Super Mario RPG style game?
It is absolutely It's Duke Nukem Legend of the Seven Stars.
I'm totally okay with that.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.